I probably get this question 10, 15 times every single day. And every time I talk to anybody about post-purchase funnels, they're always asking me, what should my RPV be? What's a good RPV? Now, a good RPV is very relative to your brand. It depends on your AOV, it depends on what type of customers, whether you're running a subscription brand, etc. There's a lot of nuances, but in this video, I'm gonna try to explain to you how you can calculate what your proper RPV should be and what are the levers that you can pull to get to that optimal RPV. So before we dive into exactly what your RPV needs to be, there's a couple things that we need to first make sure we know. For example, if you're a brand that's on Shopify, right now at the time of recording this video, if you have a brand that is running with Aftersell, OCU, or any of these upsell apps, which by the way, Aftersell is the best one, then you know that you can only upsell people that either check out in your main currency and people that don't use any third-party payment processors like Apple Pay, Klarna, or anything like that. So the first thing you need to do is figure out whether your brand is running multiple currencies, multiple countries, or just one. Most people that I'm talking to are running mainly US as their main currency. So USD is going to be all the orders that can see the funnels. But if you're a high ticket brand, you're probably also running something like Klarna, which means that you won't be able to upsell those people because they will skip the funnels. This is a limitation with Shopify currently. Hopefully that we're hearing that they might be able to fix that later on in the year. But for now, this is what we've got. So what you should do is you probably calculate or look back if you currently have funnels set up, what the actual visits you're getting from your funnels are and what are the products that people are buying that are getting them to those funnels. Now, most people, again, that I talk to are running hero products, which means they have one product that's generating all the sales. So if that's somebody like you, you want to be thinking about how can I maximize the amount of people that go through the funnel after buying this product. Some people that I've worked with have actually turned off Shopify markets so they can get 100% visibility on their funnels and sell everyone in USD. So they change the currency on the front end using HTML, but then on the back end, they make the currency all USD for checkout. And that way they don't have to use Shopify markets and lose that traffic to their funnels. And the increase in AOV they got from that was worth way more than the increase in conversion rate they got on their checkout from having someone check out in their native currency. So after you figured out how many people are actually going to see your funnel, hopefully you have 80% plus visibility from your traffic. The second thing you want to do is look at your main front end AOV and offer. So if you have an offer on the front end that gets you a $50 AOV, it's safe to assume that you can get your RPV anywhere between $4 to $7. And the way I'm calculating this metric is usually your RPV can be anywhere from 10 to 15% of your AOV. And this is something that right now, because of the limitations available on Shopify, this is what's possible. I know a lot of the people running on Checkout Champ or on other softwares like Funnelish are able to get 15, 20, 30% RPVs. And that's because they can use VSLs, delays, and all that kind of stuff. But on Shopify, without VSLs and everything, you still get 10 to 15% of your AOV as your main RPV, revenue per visit metric. So you should take a look right now at your RPV and see what that looks like. And if it's not within that 10 to 15% range, you have a big improvement that you can do. And all that is gonna go straight to your bottom line. Because one of the most important things about post-purchase funnels is that every single dollar you make within that funnel is basically at your gross margin, and most brands are running at 70 to 80% gross margins. So you could assume that an extra 15, 20, or even 100, or even $1 million a month is going to be at 80%, 70% of your profit. Now we're gonna jump into my computer here and I'm gonna show you how we can break down this revenue per visit metric and how you can start to understand what are the levers that you can use to increase this RPV. And by the way, these are the exact same strategies we've used on 120 plus brands doing anywhere between 10 to $200 million a year to help them take their RPV from $1 or $2 and their post-purchase in general being forgotten to something that now generates them over $1 million a month in profit. So to dive into all of this, we first need to understand what your RPV metric actually is. So RPV usually is obviously going to equal your revenue that you generate from your funnels divided by your visits, right? Now, revenue divided by your visits is obviously like the main way that this is calculated, but we can actually break down your revenue and visits a little bit more, specifically the revenue. So the revenue that you're going to be making from your post-purchase funnels is usually going to be your visits times, sorry, I just messed that up, visits times your AUV, which we call average upsell value, so whatever the AOV of the upsell that you're selling is, and then times your conversion rate. So that's going to be that divided by visits. So very simple math obviously is going to show us that we can cancel these two out, which means we're going to be left with visits or I guess conversion rate times average upsell value. So in this case, what this tells us is that the main levers that we can pull here that are irrelevant of how much traffic you're making is your average upsell value and your conversion rate. And this doesn't just go into the one funnel, this goes into every single step. So when you're optimizing your funnels, you have to think about how can I increase my average upsell value on upsell 1? How can I increase it there on upsell 2 after somebody takes the order, on upsell 3? Or, for example, you might say, okay, I get this first upsell here for super cheap. How can I increase the conversion rate on this upsell first? And then I can increase the AOV on the rest of these. Now, there's a lot of different strategies about how you can do this. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I'm gonna explain to you how we do it and how we manage to get the highest RPVs out there. And most importantly about our RPVs is we keep our margins super high. So this is actually very important. I think it's super neglected, and I'm writing this with my left hand essentially, just to make sure we really highlight the fact that the margin is super, super important in this case. So how do we get the highest RPV with the margins being the highest as well, and we only have these two to play with? So let's say you have an AOV of $50. In our strategy, that means for us, when we look at upsell number 1, I usually want to be able to upsell between $50 to $60 is what I would want to aim for. In this case, I want to get a very similar AUV to my initial AOV. And you might think, okay, nobody's going to take this. But the reality is that we want to get the highest intent customers through the rest of the funnel. And this means that we can disqualify a lot of these people in upsell number 1 and take them to our downsell, where we can actually then have I don't know why I wrote a B there. We can take them to our downsell, where then there we can make an offer that is more in the range of $20 to about $30, which we know they will absolutely take as long as, again, the offer makes sense. Now for upsell number 2, and this is where now that we've got their initial intent here and we're able to get the highest quality traffic, and I think it's important to highlight that the people that go from here to here are high intent. So in this case, with upsell number 2, now we're looking at anywhere between, let's say, $30 to $40. And then this usually works very well. What you're gonna see is you can get like a 20, 30, or even 40% conversion rate here. And then the third upsell after that as well is going to be in that same range. So $30 to $40. And this way you can almost guarantee you are going to get some of the highest RPVs you've ever gotten. And as long as you obviously, follow the rules of basic CRO. I will say CRO on the back end is a bit different to CRO on the front end if you're somebody who's used to building landing pages on the front end. But in most cases, you want to follow the basics of CRO and you'll be just fine. Now, for the downsells, we have another downsell obviously here, so I'll just quickly say that since I've already kind of shown all this. So for downsell number 2, it's going to be in that same range, so $20 to $30, nothing too crazy. And if you follow this and whatever these percentages are, whether your AOV is $100, $200, etc., you can make a lot of money. And this is all going to be at super high margin because you're not discounting so much. The problem is, what I see a lot of people do here is the opposite. What they do is they dilute their margins so much on this front offer, trying to say, let's get them through the first sale and then all the other funnel steps will look better. But that's not actually what happens. In reality, when you get someone in here at such a cheap price, you're now price anchoring them at that cheaper price. Going to a higher one is only going to lower the conversion rate. Versus instead, we anchor high and then these just look like way better deals down the funnel. And that's how we've been doing it for the last probably 6 to 8 months. And it's been able to crack some crazy, crazy high RPVs. Now, with all this being said, how can you apply this to your brand? Where exactly, go look at your AOV and plan out these prices this way. Now, the biggest metric that's going to make this either work or not is going to be conversion rate. So how can we make sure that the conversion rate doesn't act up against us in this situation? And this is where all of the other elements other than pricing come into play. Now, obviously we want to test prices, but before testing prices, there's so much more that we can test to figure out what we need to do for this to work. So what you can do to increase conversion rate on these steps is you can essentially test other elements other than pricing. And that includes copy, that includes, we'll actually write these down here. So you can do copy tests. You can do landing page tests, so actual design tests. You can do angle testing. So this is within the copy, but specific angles. You can segment your traffic. So you can have segments depending on where the customer is coming from, what the trigger product was in the first place, and what you can upsell them next. That is the easiest and most logical ascension from there. And with all of these, if you can increase your conversion rate with these offers, you're going to have one of the most profitable post-purchase funnels pretty much out there. So yeah, that concludes our video for today. I just wanted to show you some of these metrics so you can see exactly how you can plug them into your business. And if you follow what I just showed you in this video, you should be able to see one of the highest RPVs, like I said, you've gotten on your funnels so far. And if you like this video, leave a comment down below. And if you have a brand that's doing over $300,000 a month and you want somebody to build your funnels and test them weekly and run CRO like they should be on the back end to add anywhere from $1 million to $8 million a year in profit, click the link below and check out our website and book a call. I'll see you guys in the next video.